Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. It's your DC Spotlight for the week of August 27th, 2025, coming out on time. On that note, everybody that responded to our question about whether you prefer it late or with both of us, or you prefer it on time with only one of us, everybody that let their sentiments be known said the reason you guys tune in is to see us argue, and you want both of us there. So even if it's late, you prefer both of us. So that's what we'll do. Even if it's going to be late, we will have both of us here, unless it's going to be, weeks and weeks or what have you. But yeah, Rocky and I have a new recording schedule, so hopefully make things a little easier, give us a little more leeway. Hope everybody got a chance to check out my interview with Todd McFarlane that went live Tuesday morning. If you haven't, go check it out. If you've ever wanted a piece of Todd McFarlane original art, this is your best shot. This is your best shot. Like typically McFarlane art goes for $4,000 at least, 4,500. I guess he sold, he told me he was doing a little sketch on Whatnot the other day. So he did a little remark on a book and it went for like 2,000. And then he had been sketching to test out some paper and he's like, I might as well finish this sketch. And then he auctioned it off on Whatnot and it went for like 4,500. So you have a chance to get a Todd McFarlane sketch. It's a 1 in 1,000 book that's coming. There's 3 shots at it. First time's coming in October. It's for King Spawn number 50. You get the 1 in 1,000 cover. So that book's probably a $400 book on top of getting the original art inside. So talk to your retailer now. Now's the time to talk to them, and because final order cutoff September 22nd. But obviously, you want to work out how much you're going to pay and all that sort of stuff. So it's really cool. It's always fun to talk to Todd. Go check out the interview. Absolutely amazing. And all the other content that comes out on the Comic Source, it's over on the Comic Source YouTube channel. Just do a search for the Comic Source. Subscribe, like, comment, ring that notification bell so you know when new stuff comes out. And as always, all the Comic Source content, including the DC Spotlight, is available on our audio feed. So just go to whatever app or platform you get your podcast from, do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe. Obviously, if you're checking this out on YouTube, you're on Rocky's channel, Comic Space Boom ! As long as you're here, smash that like button, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you know when new content comes out here as well. More subscribers, more content, more reach just allows us to get better access to creators and publishers and what have you. So all that being said, apologies, we forgot last time to open up one of these packs, so we won't forget this time. We'll be doing that. 13 books, another big week for DC. Really great stuff coming with DC KO. I think I mentioned on last week's episode, I got a chance to read the first and second issues of Matt Fraction's Batman. They're amazing. So yeah, this was a really strong week. Rocky, what do you think overall?
Yeah, I thought it was a strong week too. I had a tough time with my top 5, and just again, we sound like broken records, but every week at DC, I'm just really enjoying DC, and I've had a chance to sort of sneak ahead too on some of the readings, and I got to say, for DC fans, we have a lot to look forward to. DC continues to be, I think, quite entertaining, especially if you're comparing it to the last few years. DC continues to, I think. I know it's a cliche, but subverting some expectations. There's a couple of big revelations this week, a couple of major narrative misdirections, and plot delineations that we'll talk about, and it's interesting. And it's good readings this week.
Yeah, there's one moment that really, I don't want to say it didn't rise to the level of pissing me off, but it annoyed me. And
I think
obviously,
I know what it is.
I think you probably know what it is too.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling it's a moment that you loved and it elevated the book for you. And for me, it diminished the book, but we'll talk about it. The other thing that's interesting, like I really think of over the last 5 years, maybe 7 years, maybe going back to 2018, since, which would be around the time I feel like Rebirth kind of lost steam. It was right around 2018. And then the low point between now and then would be Future State for me. I've talked many times about how I went all in on Future State. I bought so many books, like almost every variant cover or whatever was a stack over 2 feet high of Future State books. And it made me physically nauseous just to look at it and see the amount of money I spent. And like compare the quality of those stories with what we're getting now. And it's night and day. You could make an argument for, Bendis' Superman being, a low point as well. Night Terrors was certainly not very good. But yeah, hard to just in terms of, taking over the line, we didn't have any regular books coming out. I think, yeah, Future State probably not the best, but yeah, it's great to be a DC fan right now because they really are firing on all cylinders. So let's go ahead and bust open this pack here of Superman cards that I got at San Diego Comic-Con. Opening them for the first time right along with you. I think you have to turn off the green screen, right, Rocky? So they'll show up. Oh, yeah, you did already. Yeah. Dan Turpin. We're seeing him right now in the pages of Nightwing. Definitely started off as a Superman character. Yeah. Oh, here's a Brainiac 5 with a little Elvis hairdo. Yeah. See that kind of Elvis bouffant hairdo? We get some Brainiac.
That's from the 90s? Yeah. Is that the 90s version?
Yeah, I think it's the 90s, yeah. Yeah, I mean, isn't it this week that we got some Brainiac 5?
Yeah, we got some Brainiac 5. Well, we'll be talking about that. Really, actually, Superman 29 was a lot great this week.
Yeah. The Jim Lee cover of Superman, classic. Jeff Loeb, yeah, definitely classic. Again, I totally, these are my least favorite of these cards. You get one in every pack, but that really big gold border, like if you're showing me a classic cover, show me the cover. I already got a duplicate Cyborg Superman. I already have one of these. Might be a different.
Okay. You got a friend that you could send it to.
Well, I think this is a different background. Actually, look at that background. Fantastic. And Supergirl.
Nice.
Yeah, that looks like it might be Michael Turner. Yeah, that's really fantastic. So yeah, next time I'm going to open up a pack, and I'm going to open up one of the enamel pins that I got as well, because I was like doing the math. I was like, man. I'm supposed to be going to New York Comic Con. I might want to wear one of those enamel pins. I got to open some of them up. So anyway, we'll dive into the books. Like I said, everybody, 13 books this week. We're kicking it off with Absolute Wonder Woman. We're up to number 11, almost a year in here on this. Kelly Thompson is the writer. Hayden Sherman on art. Jordi Belair on colors. Becca Carey on letters. This won an Eisner for Best New Series. I kind of had mixed feelings at the time because I do still prefer Absolute Superman over Absolute Wonder Woman as my.
Oh, you froze.
So good, and this does make my top 5 this week. It comes in at number 5 for me, and it comes in Rocky's top 3. So, yeah. I don't know, and it's kind of not important, but I don't know that I would necessarily consider Absolute Wonder Woman, and we've talked about this before, Absolute Wonder Woman in terms of her like core values or differences, whatever. And you kind of don't want them to, but the like different from the regular Wonder Woman. We've talked about that, how certainly Superman has vast differences. His core values stay the same. Absolute Batman core values stay the same. There's vast differences as well. Other than external stuff, it almost feels like not only are core values the same, but this is in a way the same character. The only difference being her external circumstances, growing up in hell, growing up raised by Cersei, growing up on the Wild Isle. And if you took our main universe Wonder Woman and put her under the same circumstances, this is still the same character you would get. You could make that argument. And you might be correct. But I you know what? I don't care. I don't care because at the end of the day, this is such a great story. I agree with Rocky. He said this before, how Hayden Sherman, the art was maybe not as strong as it could have been early on, but he really caught his footing around like issue 4 or 5. And I love the art. I can't imagine somebody else on the artwork for this book now. And in this particular issue, again, seeing the core values, seeing what Wonder Woman does. I love the mix of magic. At various times for the main universe Wonder Woman, it's like they lean into the magic aspect of her, or they lean into the superheroic aspect of her, sort of fish out of water woman in man's world, or they lean into the Greek mythology aspect of her. What I love about what Hayden and Kelly Thompson, the writer, are able to do here is it feels like it's all mixed together in a way that sometimes feels lacking at times in the main universe title, where they lean into one thing or another. You look at like the George Perez run, coming out of Crisis, leaned heavily into the mythology, but maybe the magical aspect wasn't there, or the superhero aspect wasn't there as much. Certainly the Brian Azzarello run and New 52, again, leaning into the mythology, superhero aspect less so. But, great mix here where we see her actively using magic. She's raised by Cersei in hell, who's a sorceress. So it makes sense that she would be doing that. In this particular issue, we have Io show up for the first time. It's the first time this version of Wonder Woman gets to meet another Amazonian, and their relationship and the emotion that Wonder Woman has and Io has for seeing her the first time, it's impactful. It makes sense. The reactions make sense. The interplay between the characters makes sense. Seeing Ferdinand and what he's going through, the Minotaur makes sense. Like, this is just, there's nothing overt about this particular issue where I can point to a specific moment and go, oh my God, that moment was just like so over the top, right? This doesn't have like some big bombastic, oh my God, I'm going to be talking about it the next day around the water cooler type of moment. But page in, page out, panel in, panel out, it's just a consistently great comic. I think these two creators so well deserving of that Eisner. And the quality of Wonder Woman, absolute Wonder Woman, probably, maybe with the exception of Superman, because again, Superman's my favorite character. I'm loving that, but more than Batman, more than Green Lantern, Flash, absolute, any of the other absolute titles, the consistency of quality, like issue in and issue out, has been probably the best on this book. Other books may have hit higher highs, but they've certainly had lower lows, at least for me. So yeah, there's no doubt that Wonder Woman has climbed the ranks, and it's right there behind Superman for me as the best absolute title. So the only reason it didn't come in higher for me this week is just, this, like Rocky was saying, it's such a great week. So strength of competition this week, but still number 5, which is definitely higher than previous issues of Absolute Wonder Woman have been for me. So anyway, this was all the way in your top 3, Rocky. So obviously you enjoyed it. Give us your thoughts.
I think it might slip out of my top 5 because it was a pretty competitive week as I'm reflecting, but boy, that's no insult. It's a fantastic week. Just to reiterate some of your comments, I mean, I was reluctant to get on board. It maybe took me a few issues to get on board with Kelly Thompson's Wonder Woman. Absolute Wonder Woman, mainly because I've been so generally, and not to, you and I rant and rave and argue about mainstream Wonder Woman enough. My feelings on it and what have you, but I think my disappointment on my relentless ongoing disappointment with mainstream Wonder Woman, I didn't want Absolute Wonder Woman to sort of like have the characters feel the same way, and yet Absolute Wonder Woman, what Kelly Thompson has managed to do is that most of the characters are kind of the same as in the mainstream universe, except for Dr. Poison. But she works so much better with them. I wish she was I do wish she was writing mainstream Wonder Woman as well as the Absolute Wonder Woman, to be honest with you. But I think the way that she handles the magic, she portrays this Wonder Woman as Absolute Wonder Woman is simply. She's simply, generally speaking, more intelligent, and you can see her intelligence working. You can see her, even though when I bitch, whine, and complain about magic based stories, usually it's the complaint is that, well, it's a Duke Eck Machina kind of thing. Suddenly the hero is down and they weave some magic and they say something magical and all of a sudden, the problem goes away. Well, I like the fact here that we actually kind of get into Absolute Wonder Woman's head a bit. When she does use magic, it kind of makes a twisted kind of comic book sense, which is supposed to. And it just works really well. Here she's in Area 41, the maze. She's battling against the forces of Clea. She meets Io. There's a whole community that's trapped in this maze. And Io, and a fellow Amazon, has instilled hope and even sacrificed her own freedom to try to rescue for decades these people trapped in the maze. And the sisterhood that's exemplified in this issue, the magic, the flashbacks to when Wonder Woman is young, and once again seeing the formative years of Wonder Woman in talking with the gods who are shaping her to one day ascend to her destiny, save humanity as she's already has, and then ultimately to find the Amazons, which she's on her way to do so. This was an emotionally impactful issue. It was very well done. There were some. I wish sometimes Hayden Sherman's. He draws a very masculine looking Io, which is completely understandable because Io is a very masculine Amazon. She always has been drawn that way. But I but where Hayden Sherman really shines and where he's grown on me is just just every single page is a different layout and original, and it looks really good, and it's always impressive. And this story here, I've really enjoyed this story. I actually don't know exactly what to expect with with this title, and that's a tribute to Kelly Thompson. And yeah, this continues to be always near the top of the list. It's right now I'm probably at Absolute Superman, followed by Absolute Batman. This is still in third for me, but Man, that the absolute trinity is the absolute best at DC right now, in my opinion.
I'm going to apologize ahead of time, everybody, if I glitch out or what have you. We're having some weather here in Phoenix, thunderstorms coming down in buckets outside right now. Rocky froze while he was talking. Also, I want to mention. So I did while you were talking, I did pull up the other. Can you see the difference? See how one's red?
Oh yeah,
yeah. And on the back, you can see that the one that's red, it's numbered, and it goes to 1938. So
that's cool.
I have number 1,286 out of 1,938. So for those that don't get that, 1938, that's the year Superman came out. So yeah. Anyway, those are these are, I should have mentioned it. They're Fleer Brilliance is what they're called. Superman is the series, and they're going to be in Walmarts and Targets later. Not this exact finish on them, but they will be coming out later this year. All right. Let's move on. Up next, we have Green Lantern number 27, written by Chris Condon, drawn by Montos.
Green Arrow.
Yeah, what I said? I said Green Lantern. Sorry. Yes, Green Arrow, written by Chris Condon, drawn by Montos, colors by Adriano Lucas, letters by Buddy Bodon. Let me pull up my ranking here. I've really been digging on this, and I had a hard time with the rankings too, man. I went back and forth. Yeah, this did make my top 5. I went back and forth. I moved something out of my top 5 that usually would be in my top 5 to make room for this because it's so well deserving. Like what Chris Condon is doing in the pages of Green Arrow, like this is what I want from Green Arrow. I want a street level character. I want a character that is dealing with social issues and what have you. And it's a very emotional story here. We get Roy Harper talking to Leanne, his daughter, and he sort of gives a synopsis of his life in a way. Talking about the reason that he turned to drugs, talking about the struggle that he had, talking about how sort of proud he was, how much pride he took in overcoming that addiction, and why it sucks so bad to have this Crimson Archer, in basically drug him and have him suffer an overdose. Now, credit to Chris Condon for not doing the tropey thing that he could have done, where he could have had Ollie and Dinah and Leanne and basically all of Roy Harper's friends and family like assumed that he slipped up and he went back and he just took drugs, voluntarily. And I'm glad he didn't do that. All of Roy's friends and family, believe that somebody else must have done this to him because he's overcome so much. So I appreciated that scene with Leanne and Roy. I gotta imagine, I know Rocky loves that relationship as well, that he enjoyed it as well. So the mix between the emotionality of that scene, along with the action with Ollie, Green Arrow confronting the Crimson Archer, he tracks him down, he confronts him, he's trying to overdose on another drug dealer. I just really enjoyed it. And the other thing that's great about this, Chris Condon knows what a strong collaborative partner he has in Montos. Montos is the perfect artist for this in terms of giving a street level, gritty, visceral art. There are times where Condon knows to get out of the way. Like right at the beginning, the last issue ended with Leanne going to Roy's hospital room and the bed being empty. And she's searching for him. She's searching for her father. And then it dawns on her where he might be. And she goes running up to the roof of the hospital, and sure enough, that's where he is. But Condon doesn't fill that with, dialogue boxes of what we have, what thoughts are going through Leanne's head or, recapping what's come in the issues before. He knows enough to get out of the way and just let the art do the talking. And we know what Leanne's feeling based on, the cliffhanger ending last time, based on the visual storytelling we get from Montos. So just really, really well done. For Chris Condon, just knowing to get out of the way, gorgeous art from Montos. So, and this is for me, as I didn't read Green Arrow: The Longbow Hunters as it was coming out. I went back and read it in a collected edition much later. So for me, and I've been a Green Arrow guy for a long time. I like that Longbow Hunters. It had transitioned from like a prestige Baxter book to just like a regular book, and I think I started collecting it like around issue 80. Right before Connor Hawk was introduced, and collected it all the way until it ended. And then various other Green Arrow titles over the years. This, for me, this Chris Condon run is the best monthly run of Green Arrow that I've ever read. Just month in, month out, and it's not close. Like, he's just absolutely killing it. So, anyway, what are your thoughts on this one, Rocky? This, I don't know if I said, but this did come in at number 4 for me. So,
oh wow. Well, I put this in at number 11 for me, and that might sound harsh. I guess it was, but I guess I was. It was good. I actually, my favorite parts were the conversation between Lee and Roy, because Chris Condon, as the writer, he wisely knows that that's ripe territory for character development, because Leon is still she wants to get to know her dad. She still needs to get to know her mother, who's an assassin and who's over in the pages playing with Cheetah, and they're going to be robbing the Justice League satellite. So Leon's gonna. I mean, what a wonderful dysfunctional family to be a child in. Leon Harper. Wow. But in any event, yeah, I enjoyed it. It's very well done. You're right. Chris Condon manages to avoid the tropiness, and the story itself isn't complicated. We don't know who this Crimson Archer is, but he's definitely an a-hole. Somebody who goes around and making recovered addicts addicted again. That's a form of cruelty that is just that is particularly cruel. And Roy Harper's been through so much as it is. But this is one that's really close to home, because anybody who knows Roy Harper knows the classic Green Lantern, Green Arrow story with Speedy, getting high and what have you. This is really close to home, and to bring the daughter in, Leon, and to keep. I'm glad we don't have the whole Green Arrow family here, like we had in Williamson's run. We don't need all that. This is a more personal story. It should just be his daughter. It should just be Oliver, and maybe throw in Dinah. And Chris Condon plays it so well. Montos, you nailed it. I agree with you 100%. His art's perfect for this. Perfectly suited. Yeah, it's a very good issue. No disrespect to it coming out of my top 5, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised, actually. I thought because of that Leon and Roy moment. But in fairness, it's not the majority of the book. It's only a few, like maybe not even a quarter of, maybe quite a quarter of the book.
Yeah. And in fairness too, I maybe could rank it higher by the end here, but there are other things that happened this week that I'm kind of excited about, that sort of influence my.
So it's not an indictment on this book. It's just the strength of the other things. Yeah. So, which again, and I'll talk about it. I lowered some things because of I have my specific reasons, which we'll get to. And one of those, right here we go, right here. I mean, this was a book that's definitely worthy of being in my top 5, but doesn't make it. It's Absolute Martian Manhunter number 6, written by Dennis Camp, art by Javier Rodriguez, letters by Hassan Otsman-Elhau. Obviously, Javier Rodriguez handles the colors as well. This is, for me, I like this issue better than the previous 2. Like, after issue 4 and 5 for me dragged a little bit for Absolute Martian Manhunter. I think the first 3 were pretty solid, but then it started dragging, and it's a situation where I've talked about it before. We're getting just questions after questions after questions, and not enough answers, where it feels like the story is just treading water. This starts to move the plot forward again. This is a situation where John Jones is confiding in his wife, telling her about this entity in his brain and what have you. Rocky was 100% right. Last issue, when he talked about the white sphere around people's heads, was that the white Martian? We get the answer here. It is, but even though it's an improvement, it still hasn't climbed back into my top 5 for me. So this came in at number 8 for me. I enjoyed it. It is going on hiatus for a little while. I completely agree with that sentiment. Dennis Camp has gone on record as saying he doesn't want to do this unless Javier. He doesn't want to have a guest artist on the series. He wants to be sure that Javier Rodriguez has the time he needs to complete the issues. I'm 100% on board with this. This is a different book if you put a different artist on it. So I'm okay with that. So this is an improvement for me over the last couple issues, but it doesn't quite reach the level of my top 5. It didn't make your top 5 either, Rocky, but any comments?
Yeah, I put it in my top 5, and I took Absolute Wonder Woman out of my top 5. I replaced it with this one. And again, no disrespect to Absolute Wonder Woman. And here is why I made that change. I was halfway through this Absolute Martian Manhunter number 6, and I was getting frustrated. And I was asking myself, when there's an absolute Martian Manhunter on the absolute Justice League, when we inevitably get that comic, if there's ever a crossover between absolute Martian Manhunter, if there's ever a crossover between absolute Martian Manhunter and absolute Batman or absolute Superman, I don't know if I'm going to want all these white bubbles. I don't know if I'm going to want it told in this, because I was getting a little bit confused and maybe a little bit frustrated with all the bright colors and everything else. As much as I think it's kind of ingenious what's being done narratively, it was kind of like, I don't know if could I read 24 issues of this? And then, damn it, I got to the end, and the ending I found so powerful, because I'm a sucker for a good metaphor. I just absolutely loved it. And I love the fact that at the end of this, as the whole issue is really a juxtaposition between John Jones fighting the bad guy who's possessed by the White Martian, and so the White Martian and Martian Manhunter are fighting each other, while John Jones and the bad guy who's possessed by the White Martian are fighting each other. And it's going back and forth. And what was holding Martian Manhunter back from fully manifesting his power was the same thing that was holding John Jones back in truly embracing his, I guess you could say, his emotional core. And that's when he learned he decided to finally open up to his wife because this speaks to, I think, a lot of us men who we keep too much inside. We become emotionally cut off from ourselves. We don't express anybody who doesn't express what they truly feel. We're closed up. We keep things inside, and it becomes a resentment, and it eats at us. And so when John Jones finally at the end opens up and he wants to let his wife in, it's like that love. It's like love will, it's like him embracing that, and he lets go. And just as he does that, Martian Manhunter says, yes, that's it, and suddenly opens up. And the entire city, all the people that had that white bubble, all of a sudden, everyone can experience everyone else. Everyone is open to everyone at the same time. And that empathy has mass appeal, and it saves the city. And I thought that that's what made it so powerful to me, and that's what put it ahead of why I changed it with Absolute Wonder Woman. Absolute Wonder Woman's great, but I just thought that was very powerful. And once again, I'm looking forward to owning the physical copy, because at the end you could hold up the final few pages up to the light, and you'll see some other probably trick of light in terms of sort of is symbolizing that sort of openness, openness to a larger mental world, and just sort of like coming clean with one's emotions and not keeping resentments in. That's how I saw it. And as I said, I thought it was very powerful, and for that reason, I think it's pretty cool. I still have some reservations and some concerns about how well this particular how can you tell a story with Martian Manhunter and play well with the other characters in the Absolute universe? You know what I mean? Because if this comic doesn't resonate with enough people, I mean, am I going to enjoy reading an Absolute Batman comic where every page is like this? So I still have some reservations, but I got to give kudos to what I thought was a pretty cool ending to this arc. So that's why.
Yeah, it's interesting because we have such a different approach. We talked about this last time. I'm not looking at the crossovers or whatever. I still feel like such early days, but I get the excitement. Like, what is the Absolute Justice League, going to look like, or whatever? Because it's so interesting. It's always like a snapshot, right? When you bring it together, it's so of its time, right? So, you look at when the Justice League characters first came together of their time. You look at an era that I think it's you that told me that they can't stand the Detroit era of Justice League.
Well, most people can't, I don't think.
Yeah, most people don't like it, but again, it's very much of its time. You look at the era right before then, Jerry Conway and Chuck Dixon, that era, it's very much of its time, that satellite era. You look at the Bwahaha era, again, it's like, it's almost like we as comic fans, DC fans, get the Justice League that we're sort of entitled to, or deserving of at that time. So there's a lot of reason to be very hopeful that the Absolute Justice League is going to be something, completely different. It'll be interesting, but you only get to do it once, right? You only get to bring these absolute characters together for the first time. So you got to make sure you do it right. And if I'm one of the creators, I almost would be a little nervous about it. I think I would want to put it off a little bit because you only get to do it, bring them together for the first time once, and you want to do it right. So I think I'd be a little nervous, like, oh man, what if we don't nail it? Or what if we bring them together and we nail it, and then a year from now we have an even better idea that we could. Obviously you can't wait forever. You have to do it eventually. But yeah, kind of a lot of pressure when you think about it in those terms.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on. Up next, excuse me, we have Green Lantern number 26, written by Jeremy Adams. V. Ken Marion handles the art on this issue. Romulo Fajardo Jr. on colors. Dave Sharp on the letters. This is one of the ones that I kind of went back and forth. Ultimately, though, it landed in my top 3. It's the second part of the Starbreaker Supremacy, and I love that they put like all 6 parts of the Starbreaker Supremacy like on the title page. They put all the issues and the part number. I love that. I don't think I've ever seen that before. But yeah, I love that they did that. Anyway, this didn't make your top 5, Rocky. I'm gonna let you go first.
Yeah, no, it didn't. I put it in number 9. I was actually, I'm just going to say it. I was a little bit sort of disappointed in how this. I thought it was a little bit predictable, and that's and I say that I've been spoiled, and I'm going to blame. I got to blame the writer for that. And of course, Jeremy Adams, he'll have to forgive me for saying that, but he's always managed to surprise me. This one I thought was kind of predictable. I mean, all the emotional beings are behind the source wall. The Kyle Rayner, Hal Jordan, all of the Green Lanterns made it into the source wall while the Starbreaker Corps is trying to attack them and break into the source wall to kill them and take them out. And then ultimately all that really happens is that they escape the source wall, they release the emotional creatures, and they take out the Star Corps. And yeah, I guess I thought it was a little bit predictable, and it was still good. It's action packed. I mean, the art's fantastic. Kudos to V. Ken Marion. It's really good. I thought it was a little wonky. I thought it was very convenient. Hal Jordan, I mean, all these emotional creatures, Hal Jordan, they get into the source wall, and they can finally access their emotions again because the null wave that in the mainstream universe that was wiped out emotion can't penetrate the source wall. So when they're in the source wall, they get their emotions back. And Hal Jordan he won't let the emotional creatures manipulate them, and he makes a deal with them saying, well, you come back to the mainstream universe, help restore motion, but then we want you to go away. And for some reason, Hal Jordan actually thinks that like you're going to trust these creatures to make a deal with you. Not that he has much of a choice. He doesn't have a choice because they have to restore motion to the universe. But I thought it was kind of a little bit convenient. But maybe there's more to this. I suspect there's probably more to this. I love the scene. There's my favorite page is with Kyle Rayner. It's great seeing him as the White Lantern again, accessing as sort of like the torch bearer, so to speak. I love seeing that. The color work's fantastic. It's really fun. Again, it's great. I mean, this is such a great problem to have. It's great. It just never made my top 5. I thought it was a little bit predictable, but still pretty damn good. And I'm actually a little surprised it made your top 5 given the competition this week, as interesting as this issue was. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, like I said, it didn't initially, and I was going back and forth, and I was like, man, I've been loving what's been going on, and should it be in my top 5? Should it not? Or whatever. I went back and forth. It wasn't there initially, and then I put it back in because I sort of felt about it sort of the same way that you were. Not that it's boring by any stretch, but predictable is the wrong word, but things sort of happened the way that I expected them to happen. There were, no giant surprises. Yeah, it was great to see Hal Jordan channel the White Lantern energy. As Jeremy said when I interviewed him at San Diego Comic-Con, Kyle using that, then kind of similar to Superman's new power, how it drains him. So Kyle doesn't have any ability to channel any emotional energy at that moment. So that was interesting as well. I didn't necessarily expect the deal to be made. I thought it was going to be a situation where the Lanterns were going to have to just accept that as Hal calls them, these parasites, these avatars of the different emotional spectrums, that they're just going to have to put them all back. Parallax is going to have to go back into the um, Green Lantern and reintroduce the yellow impurity weakness and that sort of thing. Like, it was just what they were going to have to live with. I completely believe that Hal knows that these emotional parasites, that's basically what they are going to double cross them. He's expecting it. Moreover, I think that they know that he knows. Now, the question is, does he know that they know that he knows? I'll stop there. But you get my point. Like, yes, he doesn't have a choice. He doesn't trust them. They're only agreeing to it because they think they can manipulate the situation later, I'm sure, to allow for their freedom. They're willing to do or say anything they can say or do to get out from the other side of the source wall. And Rocky's right. I mean, the lanterns are stuck between a rock and a hard place. They need to restore emotion. They need to basically defeat the Starbreaker core. And this is their only way to do it. So, I mean, even though it was maybe as expected, two reasons I still put it in there. First of all, the Romulo Fajardo Jr. colors are outstanding, and they need to be, because this is a story about the emotional spectrum, which is represented by color, and it's done very, very well. The other thing is the V. Ken Marion art, especially for these entities, is amazing, and it's not the easiest thing to do when these entities are monochromatic, right? Like the green entities all green, the orange is all orange. So getting the perspectives right, getting the tone and the rendering right is not easy for Romulo, and it also falls on Viken to make sure that his line work is done in such a way that it gives the correct instruction to Romulo when he colors it. So the art in this issue is just over the top, and the art really is ultimately why I put it back into my top 5, because I may have put it like somewhere around 6, but I'm like, when I add the art in, it's just amazing. And the other, 6 is completely respectable when we're talking about it. 13 books out this week, and some really strong contenders with really impactful moments for what's going on in the DCU. And yeah, Jeremy continues to kill it. I've talked before in the past on just how much story he packs into each particular issue of Green Lantern. So yeah, maybe this was a little bit expected. They go to the source wall, they break through to the other side, they find the emotional entities, they make a deal with them, they come back, they defeat 2 of the Starbreaker Corps that are there, and those are awesome moments as well. And they realize, hey, if we chop their hands off, and then they're not wearing the ring any longer. Technically, they don't have as strong of a connection to it. That was great. Seeing how Jeremy and in the pages of Green Lantern Corps, along with his co-writer Morgan Hampton, are playing with the idea of emotion, and color plays in there as well. We know that they're much more gray when they don't have the color. Aya, the character that debuted in the pages of mainstream universe just a couple of issues ago, that's from the Green Lantern cartoon. Like, just all of these things that are so great. I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to take it for granted and be like, okay, because every issue of this is just absolutely fantastic. When there's an issue that's maybe not quite as good as the other issues, I lower it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like in comparison to other book, like if we're comparing this Green Lantern issue against other issues of the run, yeah, maybe it's not as strong. But you compare it against a lot of other comics that are coming out right now, it's still way up at the top. So that was the reason that even though, my initial instinct was like yours, I was like, oh, I don't know if I put it in the top 5 this week. And then I stopped and thought about it. I'm like, but it's still like one of the first books I read when I get the chance.
Well, when you talk consistency, I think it's fair to say that probably Green Lantern's been in our top 3 more consistently than any other comic. Pretty
100%.
Close.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe it's a little bit of a cheat that I'm putting in there, but I wanted to give a shout out to V. Ken and Romulo Fajardo Jr. So it got the nod for me, and fantastic. And I'm looking at, let me look at what's number 6. Like, so what did this push out? Yeah. Okay. What it pushed out. Yeah, I have my reasons for why it got pushed out. So, we'll talk about that. So, anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have, all right, Green Lantern Dark number 6 from writer Tate Brombal, art by Werther Dell'Edera, colors by Giovanni Nero. letters by Tom Napolitano. This comes in at number 13 for me. This is just not my type of story. I haven't enjoyed it from the beginning. I'm not like Werther Dell'Edera's art is not. I think a lot of people know him for Something Is Killing the Children. His art style is not an art style I enjoy, and so it's not a surprise that this hasn't been resonating for me. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I know this is outside your top 5 as well, Rocky. Anything to add?
Yeah, I want to give Dell'Edera credit. I got both hardcovers. I love Something Is Killing the Children. I love it. It's one of my favorite independent series. I always get it. I got the oversized hardcovers of the first 2 volumes. I love it. I've got Something Is Killing the Children. I was in early on that series. I love it. So, but it's the oddest thing. It's just this character. I'm not a big fan of this character. So story-wise, I don't like the character. I don't find the character's character to be particularly likable. That's not even the fault of the writer, really, because I think maybe the intention was to make the character that way. It just doesn't resonate with me. And the art, for some reason, this just is not working for me. And yeah. Well, apologies. I really couldn't get into this series enough, not even to even tell narratively what's about it. So I apologize to people if they're fans of this. If you want a substantive review, unfortunately, Jason and we're straight shooters. You're not going to get it from us. But it just wasn't my cup of tea. This wasn't my cup of tea, and I ranked this at number 12 this week for me. But it's kind of a little bit unfair because I suppose I could do a deep dive, but this doesn't feel like it belongs in the DC universe to me. It reads like an independent title to me. It's the oddest thing. It's a little bit too far outside. It's not in the Absolute universe. It feels outside even the DC. It just feels odd. It's very much the black sheep of the DC publications right now, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, I have been reading it. I just haven't particularly enjoyed it. And to your point of it not feeling like it belongs to DCU, it is Elseworlds, so it is its own thing.
Yeah.
But if anything else that I'll add is just like when I read Jeremy Adams' Green Lantern book, there's an inherent hopefulness, and I think there's an inherent hopefulness to the Green Lantern concept, right? I think it's like wish fulfillment in a way. You have this ring, and the only limit of what it can create is your imagination. There's inherent hopeful. It's like wish fulfillment in a way. It's like having the magic lamp that you can rub and the genie comes out and gives you wishes, grants your wishes. This Green Lantern Dark, it's well named because it's so dark and depressing. It's sort of antithetical to the concept of Green Lantern, which I suppose is the point of it and what Tate Brombal is trying to explore. I just, when it comes to the Green Lantern concept, that's just, again, that's why it's not my cup of tea. That's not something I'm interested in reading about when it comes to Green Lantern. So anyway, enough about that. Let's move on. Up next is Immortal Legend Batman #1 from writers Kyle Higgins and Matt Groom. Erica D'Urso and Dan Mora are the artists. Igor Monti and Tamara Bonvillain handle the colors. Becca Carey.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Becca Carey on letters.
Yeah. Sorry. I just wanted to interject and say that to those listening that Jace, you asked me repeatedly, many times over the course of close to a week, have you read Immortal Legend Batman yet? Have you read Immortal Legend Batman yet? And I never did, and it just so happened I was busy, and I'm sure you were getting frustrated because I hadn't read it yet. Finally, I read it, and I think so. I think I know how you're going to rank this. But I can't wait to hear your thoughts, your more specific thoughts on it. I thought I'd just throw that in.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, everybody. Like, even before this was in our DC press previews, Kyle Higgins sent me a copy, like before Final Order cutoff, so I could, if he didn't say, "Hey, you got to help me, promote this or whatever, shout this out to the rooftops before Final Order cutoff." He just sent it to me, and he goes, "I thought you might want to check this out." I read it. I immediately messaged Rocky. I was like, "You got to read this. It's so great." Like I put it up into our press thing and I was like, "Hey, check it out. I made a little video, put it up on my YouTube, did a YouTube short, like telling people, you got to order this. It's so fantastic. Like, and I'm not saying in any way, shape or form that this should be what Absolute Batman is. Absolute Batman is what it is. The Batman who lifts. And I love what Scott and Nick and company are doing over there. I'm just saying for me, like if I just compare the first issues, because that's all I can do in fairness, because I've only read the first issue of Immortal Legend Batman. Like if you give me a choice, okay, which one did you enjoy more? The first issue of Immortal Legend Batman or the first issue of Absol Batman? I enjoyed this more. I thought it was so dynamic and so fun. Yeah, I get that I typically enjoy what Kyle Higgins does in his books, but I don't enjoy everything. Like I'm not a Power Ranger guy. I like his Radiant Black. I like some of his more grounded stuff he's done, like the Dead Hand and Ordinary Gods and what have you. No One is amazing, but this is so different for me from what I'm used to reading from him, because I think this kind of leans more into probably ideas and concepts that were in his Power Rangers run, and it's just so fun because it does feel so new and so fresh, and you don't need to know anything. Like not that there's anybody that's alive on this planet that is not senile or above the age of probably 5 or 6 who hasn't heard the name Batman or know who Batman is. But this is just so fresh and new, and yet there are things about it. There's familiar names, familiar characters, and what have you. So the whole idea, the whole concept is that it's far in the future, and in order for mankind to sort of colonize the stars, they had to find a sort of an energy source that was a little more sustainable and clean and able to be used to power the technology that was going to be used to colonize the stars. And they were able to find something, but what they didn't know was there was kind of a dark side to that energy, if you will. You could almost think of it like the dark multiverse, because what happened is when they access the light side of that energy, they also unlock the dark side, and the dark side has what's called shadows. And so if a shadow comes over, they will come over and they will impersonate, a person that lives in kind of the regular universe. And they murder, they feed off of energy and what have you. They're evil. So like I said, they're shades of, Batman Who Laughs, dark multiverse kind of thing there. So in the future, this concept of Batman, it's like Batman is fighting against those shadows and what have you. And the way he's doing that is he's accessing that dark part of the energy. But Nightwing is also there. And Nightwing can access both the dark and the light. There's also Robin. There's Immortal Robin. Immortal Robin just accesses the light side. So concepts like that, which are really interesting. Again, familiar names and familiar characters that you're going to see here, but twisted and tweaked and what have you, because this is far in the future. Gotham here in this story is not a city, it's a planet. We're seeing technology and weapons and gadgets and amazing art from Erica Durso and Dan Mora. Brilliant, vibrant colors, which suit the tone of the story that Kyle Higgins is trying to tell. And so if you're a person that's like, I'm Batmaned out, like DC just goes to the well time and time again with the same old kind of Batman stories, I would encourage you to pick this up, because this feels, while familiar, while you have some touch points that feel the same, you're going to see familiar names, like Bruce Wayne, right? That's not a big surprise. There's a Bruce Wayne character in this, but he feels so wildly fresh and new. And the name being a touch point, especially the Wayne name when you talk about Batman, but not the same old stuff. We're not going to see a Gotham City Police Department and a bat signal. And I mean, I don't think we are. But I read this and it was so fun. I was so excited, and I didn't know what to expect necessarily at all when I first heard about it, but I was like, oh, it's Kyle, I'm going to pay attention. And then, I learned more about it at San Diego Comic-Con during the Gotham panel. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And as much as I had expectations for those reasons, for the things I learned at San Diego, and for it being from Kyle, along with his co-writer, Matt Groom, who I'm fans of both of them. So, in terms of quality and expecting a technically good story in terms of pacing and ideas or what have you, I expected that. But when we actually talk about execution, yeah, this definitely exceeded my expectations. So this is a no-brainer in my top 3, 100%. So what'd you think when you finally got a chance to read it?
Well, the way I enjoyed it. The way I would describe it is to me it felt like it's not like a scientific a Western science fiction because
Yeah.
it has a Western feel to it. And I kind of like that. It's in the future, and they kind of got a Western look about him. In fact, one of when Wayne shows up, or at least the person we believe to be Bruce Wayne, it's Sheriff Wayne, and it's Mayor Dent, and it's they're looking at some killings that have gone on at a mining operation. And it's not till the end that you get the full lore, the historical lore that you went into detail about. And it's not it's good. This is obviously Elseworlds. It's right on the cover, so this is going to be an alternate universe that we get to return to time and time again, which is awesome. And Kyle Higgins, I think of Kyle Higgins, it's like he's that's like Radiant Black, right? The
Yeah.
writer Radiant Black, and
Yeah.
this has that. Definitely has that kind of feel of it too, a little bit. And great character work, great color work, the great action sequences. Batman, there's even a little bit, I feel like there's even sort of like an anime feel to it. Batman even has like a wrestling move. We got the Batman press, I guess. So there's some, I think it's incorporating a little bit of manga, a little bit of anime, a little bit of science fiction, Western look. We got the two-faced man and very awesome, crazy-looking villain, just amazingly artistically rendered by. Sorry, you mentioned the artist.
Yeah.
Matt
Erica
Bloom.
Durso. Erica
Erica Durso.
Durso. Yeah,
Yeah,
and Dan Mora, but most of it's done
right?
by Durso. I think Mora does some stuff at kind of the final few pages, and he
Yeah,
did the main cover as well.
yeah. But it's really good, and I even the ending really intrigued me about how this is very much about legacy, generational legacy, about how as a result of the discovering of this new energy and the shadows that were discovered alongside I guess the positive use of the energy, and then there's the darker side of the energy, and you need generations of Nightwing and Batman, and in order to battle it. And it mentions all the legacy characters: Barbara Gordon, Stephanie Brown, and Tim Drake, the role that they played, and then of course the mention of Thomas Elliot at the end. Uh, because Bruce Wayne is believed has been set up by the entity here to be sort of like the bad guy, even though he isn't. But the powers that be don't know that, and so they now the possibility of replacing Bruce Wayne with Thomas Elliot. So already we got a setup for the next issue. It's good. It's good, and it's easy to get into. Everything is told you. You can go in. You don't need to know nothing. Obviously, this is a first issue. It's very well done, and like you said, if you want a different take on Batman, a refreshing take, this is definitely definitely could be right up your alley.
Yeah, and in terms of just, hey, pick up the first issue, give it a try, and see if you like it. You might be surprised. Also, your pocketbook might thank you later. I mean, how many of us would go back and buy the first issue of Batman Beyond if we could, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is, in terms of kind of a new concept for Batman. I mean, Batman has new number ones all the time, but this is the first Batman that really feels like something new that we've had in a really, really long time. So, yeah, speculator alert. You may want to pick up a copy or two. But yeah, definitely worthy of your attention this week. So, all right. Up next, we have Robin and Batman Jason Todd from writer Jeff Lemire with art by Dustin Nguyen. For some reason, our copy doesn't have a credits page, but I think, I mean, assuming that it's the same letter that we've had in the first two issues, then Steve Wands handles the letters. So if it's somebody else, I apologize but I think it's Steve. I enjoyed this, but this is purely just based on the strength of the week. It only came in at number 9 for me. But surprisingly, it was in Rocky's top 5. At least surprising to me, it came in Rocky's top 5.
Yeah, I actually put this in at number 4 because and Jason Todd is my least favorite Robin. I've never been a fan of Jason Todd. I was one of I always like to tell people I was the deciding vote as to why Jason Todd was killed off as Robin, because I did actually call the 1-900 number and I voted. What's that?
Do you like him less than Stephanie Brown? Or do you don't consider, you don't put her in
I hated him. Well, okay, Stephanie Brown came much later, but I at the time I hated him. People forget there's a reason why they killed him off. I wasn't the only one that voted, because he was unlikable. He was not
whiny.
liked. Yeah. I hated Jason Todd even more when he came back. I remember Countdown to Final Crisis, how bad that series was, and he was part of that,
Yeah.
and I hated him in that, and I just never liked him. And in any event, he's actually I like him better now. This actually makes me any story that can actually make me like something that I previously really didn't like. I'm impressed. This is Jason Todd, the early years. And it makes sense the way that Jeff Lemire has the story set up is that there's sort of like a darker version of Batman in this character called the Wraith, and he's a darker version of Batman who has no problem killing, and particularly killing drug dealers. There's some deeply emotional moments where Jason Todd reflects back on finding his mother dead of a drug overdose, and uh, and how he reflects on that, and he talks about how he's incredibly enough he seems to be afraid of Batman. He always has this fear of Batman, and yet he feels more comfortable around Wraith. So it makes you wonder: is he more comfortable around darkness? Has he always been more comfortable around exploring his darker side? And but through the story, you come to discover that that's not it. You know, he's afraid of Batman because Batman is in many ways, ironically, the light that shines upon the goodness in Jason, and Jason is too afraid to. He spends so much time in darkness that he's afraid to sort of embrace the light. There's that wonderful expression that I say from time to time. It's from Marion Williamson. It's not our darkness that we fear. It's our light. It's our potential. That's what Jason Todd has always feared. He's always feared his potential. That Batman and Alfred have always tried to instill in him. You're capable of so much. We believe in you. But of course, Jason Todd, he's a he learns, but he's a slow learner, and you see that here, and much to great effect here. And ultimately, Wraith gives him a lot of temptation. They find the Reaper Red, which is a drug that's going around. The Reaper Red, which I believe was the drug that killed his mom. This they confront this Jansen character, and ultimately, Jason at the end does side with Batman, and Wraith ends up being put in prison. But of course, it hints at a darker future for Jason Todd, as Jason Todd even at Arkham walks past the cell where the Joker is. And so I just thought it was really well done at the foreshadowing. Those of us who are longtime readers, I think, uh, I feel particularly rewarded here because I feel that we're getting just a little bit of some extra insight. I feel rewarded, and I have a little bit more sympathy for a character that I've never been a huge fan of. So I thought it was very well done, enough so that I put it in my top 5. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean it's emotional for sure. I don't know that it's the drug that killed his mom because I got the impression it was something new, but it's not really relevant. But
Possibly not. Yeah,
yeah,
it's not important to the story anyway. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But I agree with you. It is more insight into Jason Todd is as a character and leans into the idea that he was always broken, which having my degree in child psychology, I have a little bit of a problem with with that. Like this idea that this poor kid, like nobody's born broken the way that Jason seems to think that he is. Uh, but it's a debate for another day, nature versus nurture or what have you. But it's definitely sad to see the way that he perceives himself. So it does provide a lot of insight into who Jason Todd is as a character, and give credit to Lemire for uh, kind of sussing that out of who the character is. And Dustin Wynn's art, watercolors. I'm not typically a fan of this style of art, but he's so talented and it works so well for the story. But again, I did enjoy this. My ranking is purely just based on the strength of other books this week. So, all right, moving on. We have Superman number 29, written by Joshua Williamson, art by Dan Mora, colors by Alejandro Sanchez, letters by Ariana Maher. Now, this may surprise many, many people. This is not in my top 5. This is the
Ooh,
book that fell out of my top 5 for a specific reason that I'll talk
wow.
about after Rocky gives us his thoughts. This comes in at number 7 for me. And I really could have ranked it even lower, but yeah, I initially moved it out of my top 5 to 6, and then I moved it down from 6 to 7, and then that's kind of where it stopped its fall. But yeah, give us your thoughts on it because this is in your top 5.
Well, I have to tell you a little bit of background here. Cole's Notes version. I've never been a fan of Superboy-Prime. I was a huge fan of Superboy-Prime when he made his first appearance back in the original Crisis in the DC Comic Presents. When he was Superboy-Prime was actually a Superboy from our world, from our Earth, and he helped Superman and the rest of the heroes in the original Crisis on Infinite Earths. He helped defeat the Anti-Monitor. But then, of course, in Infinite Crisis, Jeff Johns made him into a limb-ripping, complete jerk, and he became super popular. And I hated him, and I hated the fact that he became popular. And I blame a lot of the reasons why I didn't enjoy Infinite Crisis on Superboy-Prime. I thought that series had potential. That Crisis had potential that was squandered by Jeff Jones focusing on Superboy-Prime. And anyways, that's a talk for another day, a rant I could have for another day. Suffice to say, Superboy-Prime was supposedly redeemed. He went through a redemption arc. Jeff Johns gave him a redemption in the last Death Metal series. And here we have Superboy-Prime show up, the time trapper who has basically taken Superman and is brought him to a pocket universe where Superboy-Prime is, where he ended up after Death Metal, after his redemption. And Time Trapper's essentially saying to him, "Look, we got Superboy-Prime. I have to go now. I have to go elsewhere in time." So Doomsday / Time Trapper takes off, and then Superman finds himself with Superboy-Prime. And what I love about it is that Joshua Williamson. With great art by Dan Mora, he's having fun with the Silver Age, and my favorite line in the book is where Superboy-Prime sort of smashes the fist because Superman's wondering how are we going to get to the future to save the future, and Superboy-Prime hits the glass wall, symbolic of Superboy-Prime hitting the glass wall that set off Infinite Crisis back in the day. And of course he says the fantastic line, "Come on, get Silver Age with me." I just love that line, and that they had me from the Silver Age. That was awesome. And so I'm finding to myself, I kind of hate this character, but goddamn, he was redeemed, and maybe I might grow to like this character. He might actually grow on me again. And so they go to the future, and it's so wonderfully written by Joshua Williamson. He's sort of breaking the fourth wall. Superboy-Prime is breaking the fourth wall, talking about how we're going to go to the future. I know exactly what's going to happen. We're going to end up battling Darkseid with all the different iterations of the Legion of Superheroes, and then it's just as we're about to be defeated, we're going to win the day, et cetera, et cetera. But of course, they get to the future. It's a completely chaotic, dystopian future. Most of the various iterations of the Legion of Superheroes have been decimated and destroyed by the Darkseid Legion of Heroes. And there's only one sole survivor, and that's Cosmic Boy. And you see the remnants of the various Legionnaires. Very few survivors are there, and they're so relieved to see Superman. And they've managed to capture an absolute universe version, apparently of Brainiac, and they're trying to hack into Brainiac to figure out where they can go to finally defeat this Dark Legion. I mean, it's awesome. And you see a depressed Starboy who looks shell-shocked, and Superman gives a big speech about, we can do it, we can beat the bad guys, yada, 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 cue music, cue inspirational music. You can just hear the epicness of it, at least in my head canon. And then, of course, there's a betrayal. Cosmic Boy ends up being the one betrayed, turns into the Darkseid version, or the Darkseid Legion version of Chameleon Boy. And Superman manages to find Booster Gold, but he doesn't know who Booster Gold is. Booster Gold's memory has been wiped from the past. So all of a sudden we see a major ramification, because we know from that one shot that Booster Gold was the one that went ended up getting captured by the Dark Legion. He ended up going into the future and being captured. He ended up battling for 2 years with the Dark Legion against the Dark Legion, but was ultimately defeated. Superman has now found him, but just as Superman finds him, the Dark Legion attacks, only to discover that as Superman is about to hold his own against the Dark Legion, it looks as if Superboy-Prime is an a-hole after all. Maybe this is misdirection. Is Superboy-Prime going to stay a bad guy? Is he working with the Dark Legion of superheroes? Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I hope he's just playing possum here. I don't know. But even if Superboy-Prime is a villain again, as is suggested at the cliffhanger of this issue, I still love this issue. I was just going from page to page, loving everything. The Dan Mora art's fantastic. I really found myself enjoying this, and I was along for the ride, and everything I think was just awesome, and I had so much fun. I just had fun. So why didn't this make your top 5?
I'm right there with you. Like very similar sentiments for Superboy-Prime. I hated what they did to him in Infinite Crisis. I loved him. I think when he first showed up in the pages of DC Comics Presents, I think I liked him more as a character than even the Superman at that time. That may have changed during the John Byrne era, and then obviously, that we found out that that Superboy was in a pocket dimension and whatever, and I felt bad, but that was still my remnant, right? That was still my hope. I'm like, yeah, Superboy doesn't technically exist in DC, official continuity anymore, but at least we have this version of him in this pocket universe or whatever. I can still think of fondly and whatever. I mean, I have a lot of Superboy comics that I read as a kid that I loved. And then to have him turned into a bad guy by Jeff Johns, one of the few things that Jeff Johns has done that I just despised. But I always held out hope that he was going to be redeemed because I would always tell myself, but he still at the core is Superman. So at some point, maybe it's just an age thing. He's going to grow up. He's going to mature a little bit, and he will, he will turn it around. He will be redeemed. And we finally got that. We finally got that in the one shot, and it was brilliantly done. It was very emotional when Jeff Johns did that. I remember it was my book of the week when it was done or what have you. And then we haven't seen Superboy-Prime since then. And so I was a little worried when he showed up here under, the pen of Joshua Williamson, only because of the tone that he took. He doesn't, like, if you go back and read that first story with Superboy-Prime or read any of the issues of Crisis on Infinite Earths that he's in, the way he speaks is so respectful, and he very much is a young Superman. And then obviously with the corruption that in Infinite Crisis and whatever, that changed. And then he always spoke a little bit more like a two-dimensional cardboard cutout villain, twirling his mustache or whatever. You'll never defeat me, blah, and always angry all the time, and overly emotional. Emo, I think, was definitely a term that was thrown around in regards to him. Very much a early 2000s type of character in so many ways. Huh. So to have him redeemed was wonderful. But then again, like right away, I started worrying when he showed up at the end of last issue, just because of the way that he was, just the vocabulary that he used, the syntax that he used under the pen of Joshua Williamson. So my worry was, they're going to undo the redemption, even though at San Diego Comic-Con, Joshua Williamson said that the redemption of Superboy-Prime is acknowledged. That did happen. What he didn't say is it doesn't mean I can't walk it back. And that's so cliche. It's so cliche, right? Oh, Superboy-Prime wasn't really redeemed. He's still an a-hole. I don't find him to be interesting as an asshole character. I just don't. Like, I guess, more of a plot device than anything else, and subverting expectations is what Jeff Johns did. I've never asked Jeff about it. But I didn't care for it. And so to have him redeemed, it was kind of like the thing that I had been waiting for so long finally happened. And now at the end of this issue, it's like, okay, he wasn't redeemed. Now it could be that, as you said, he's playing possum, right? Like he knows they're in deep trouble. What other way can I possibly help Superman other than to pretend I'm still the a-hole, pretend I'm still the jerk, try to gain the trust of the Dark Side Legion, and try to figure out a way out of the mess that we're in. Like, that would work. But just on the certain, I'm only in that, I may have to make assumptions to have it be that way. But if I'm just going purely by what's being presented here in this final page, yeah, this last page ruined it. Now, it's still a great comic. It's still fun for all those reasons that you mentioned. The whole concept of what's happening with Darkseid, the Darkseid Legion, how time travel's messed up, time trapper being Doomsday makes sense. Like all of these concepts are really cool. They're really fun. The art is amazing. Seeing these evil versions of the Legion superheroes makes sense. Seeing the sort of downtrodden and defeated version of the Legion makes sense. We even get to see one of my favorite Legionnaires. Like my favorite Legionnaires are probably Wildfire, Brainiac 5, and Starboy in that order.
Yeah.
And so, we get to see 2 out of those 3 here. And so, yeah, and the interactions between them and Super, like so much to love, which is why even with that moment, this was still in my top 5. But then, yeah, the more I thought about it, I had to just drop it out of the top 5 because of that. I was like, really? I waited years for Superboy-Prime to be redeemed. And Joshua Williamson, next time he shows up after his redemption, nope, he's not redeemed. He's an asshole again. Now, again, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Joshua Williamson is just, again, using it as a plot device to try to fool the Darkseid Legion. But I just as easily could see it go the other way and go, no, he's not really redeemed. He's still an a-hole because he spent so much time. He has more appearances, even though it's a longer period of time between when he showed up in that DC Comics Presents issue. I'm pretty sure that issue was in 1986. Could have been 87. Or I could just be thinking it's 87 because I think it's issue 87. Maybe it was even 85. But anyway,
87.
Regardless, whether it was 85, 86, 87, much longer period of time between his first appearance and Infinite Crisis, like, decades between those 2 stories, much less time between Infinite Crisis and now, although it's been 20 years, which is crazy to me that it's been 20 years since Infinite Crisis. But anyway, less time. So even though he spent less time chronologically being an a-hole, he has way more stories of him and appearances with him being an asshole. So I hope that he is still redeemed. I hope that we can get a little bit more back to the what I'll call the true Superboy-Prime, which to me was the Superboy-Prime pre-Infinite Crisis. Yeah. And as much as I love the issue, as much as I love Joshua Williamson, and I love the art, and I love so much, I had to, for that specific moment, that final page, I had to ding this and drop it out of my top 5. So.
I think that Superboy-Prime is such a wild card. I think that he's existed in so many different iterations and universes, in and out of all the crises. I think he's the ultimate wild card that even Absolute Darkseid does not anticipate. And so I think Absolute Darkseid would legitimately believe that Superboy-Prime is on his side because Superboy-Prime has the resume with a lot of violence. And I don't think he would necessarily anticipate Superboy-Prime like flipping on him. In my view, at least that would be the theory for him just playing possum, because I think Superboy-Prime has to know that him and Superman alone could not defeat maybe the Dark Legion at that particular moment. And I think he's playing the long game. I hope Joshua Williamson, I hope.
Yeah. Because I mean, you're right. He is the wild card. Like, it would be believable if Superboy-Prime is pulling a double cross, and at the end of the day, he teams back up with the heroes and helps them defeat Darkseid. That would be believable, and I would buy that. You know what else I would buy? After that final confrontation when they beat Darkseid, Superboy-Prime turns on all the heroes and declares himself the ruler of all existence, crowns himself, and kills all the heroes, sits down on the throne, takes Darkseid's place. Based on his history and the stories people have told, that would also be believable, which is what I hate that that's believable about this character. This is like one of my all-time favorite characters when he showed up. Like, he just had such an impact on me. And I'm sure it was the age I was and things I was going through in my life then and whatever. But just based on the fact that, I was a huge comic fan at the time. Yeah, as a 12-year-old kid, I was like, I wish I could be Superman and have the powers or whatever. And here was a kid from supposedly our reality that lived that, So it was like, it's like I saw so much of myself in him. And I don't know, I've been called an asshole too plenty of times though. So maybe it is accurate characterization. Anyway, Let's move on. Up next, we have Flash number 24. To no one's surprise, this is in neither of our top fives. It comes in at number 12 for me. Written by Simon Spurrier, art by Vasco Gregev, colors by Matt Herms, letters by Hassan Otsman Elhau. Now, I will say, in defense of Simon Spurrier, a couple of good things for this part 6 of Bad Moon Rising. Number one, it's this penultimate issue. Only one more issue of Simon Spurrier. Then we're pivoting to Mark Waid and Christopher Cantwell as writers. So looking forward to that and having an impulse story. Number two is he is continuing to build off of and make sense of the story he's been telling for the last couple issues with this emotional story, with the shade and that emotion bleeding over to Eclipso. And what he's doing with Eclipso is fleshing out the character, a little bit more and layering the character. So I do appreciate that. But it's almost at a point where it's a little too little too late, like the story for the last couple issues, I'd said it started to come together and make sense, but we had too much of as we've coined the term, or maybe not, or used the term, scientific gobbledygook and, overuse of language, too much of that, too much of some ideas have been cool with the Pilgrim being Waid West and what have you. But even though it's coming together now at the end, I mean, better than not having it not come together, because I would argue that the first 12 issues, those first two arcs that told the story of the Still and those Archangel, whatever, that never came together. At least this feels like it's coming together for the conclusion of the story in issue 25. But again, it's a little too late. The Vasco Gregev art is, steady and fine as it has been throughout the run whenever he's been handling the art duties. But yeah, for me, it's like I'm barely hanging on, and I don't know that even though we try to read everything and review them for the episodes, I think if it hadn't been announced that Simon Spurrier was leaving with 25, I don't know if I would have had the strength to finish this. That kind of gave me the light at the end of the tunnel to kind of power through. I can say without a shadow of a doubt that these 25 issues of Flash are issues I will never go back and read again, ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Anything else to add, Rafi?
Yeah, I fundamentally disagree with just to reinforce, and I just, I don't mean to be Mr. Negative, but just to reinforce just how not a fan of this I am. We're 24 issues, and this 24th issue, an analogy is made between the relationship that Jay has with his father, Wally West, the bad guy here, what's his name?
Eclipso?
I'm drawing a blank. Eclipso, yeah, that Eclipso has with Darkseid. Eclipso wants to live up to Darkseid and feels he wants to, he's under a lot of pressure. He feels he wants to live up to the legacy of Darkseid, just like Jay wants to live up to the legacy of his father. And there's actually kind of an emotional, that we're supposed to pick up on that sort of analogy here at one point. And it just doesn't work for me. I will say, finally, we see Irie actually crying. I mean, the whole setup here is absurd. It's Wally West makes he finally reveals that, in fact, all these flashes that we're seeing are all parts of him. And in fact, they're not clones or anything, or time clones or anything. They're actually all part of him. And I'm thinking to myself, we've had like the last 6-7 issues, Jay and Irie have repeatedly watched various literally parts of their father, i.e. different iterations of their father, literally slaughtered and killed in front of them. No little emotion. I mean, this has got to be traumatizing for kids. I mean, I realize he aged them up, but they're still maybe only 12, 13, 14 years old. This has got to be devastating. At least Irie in this issue actually cries and we get some emotion here, but these kids got to be monumentally screwed up here. And this is the whole thing just doesn't work. And then when you throw in the gobbledygook and everything else, future writers, in order to build on this stuff, have to have an understanding of this stuff. This reminds me of Grant Morrison's Final Crisis. And I remember, I think it was Mark, I can't remember which writer it was. The question was asked, why wasn't there more tie-ins with Final Crisis? And the answer was because most writers didn't know how to tie anything in because they didn't understand what Grant Morrison was writing. I mean, that was sort of like the sarcastic comment, but that literally was what the answer was. And I just laughed and I understood entirely. In any event, That's a little bit of a mini rant, and apologies to Si Spurrier. I love, his Constantine was really good, but this was just not up. It's not my boat, not my cup of tea.
I mean, Final Crisis. Come on, Superman sings to save the universe. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, oh my god,
No, I
yeah,
thought it was
don't even get
cool.
me started.
I actually, it's grown on me. Final Crisis. I don't
Yeah,
mean to insult it. I actually, it's grown on me over the years. But I mean,
yeah,
it
it's
was
grown on me.
different.
It's grown on me too, like a boil or a
Yeah.
wart. It has not gotten. I haven't gone back and reread the whole thing, but I think it was when I was sorting comics sometime last month, and I came across some issues of it, and I was flipping through them, and I was like, oh my god, I just that series and kind of the nonsense of it is just the epitome of why I typically don't care for Grant Morrison writing. So anyway,
Yeah.
topic for another day. Let's move on. This next book, as it has been throughout, is in my top 3. Absolutely excellent. Mr. Terrific Year 1. I love that we got, and I'm so glad that we got the first issue of this before the Superman movie came out. So it's not like I'm jumping on the bandwagon here. Mr. Terrific has always been one of my favorite characters. And I mentioned after I read the first issue, going back and buying like the whole, because I couldn't find my Mr. Terrific issues. I found that like the first 3 from the solo series he had that launched with the New 52. So I was like, I forget it. I'm just going to go and buy the whole series again. I found it on eBay for like $15 or whatever. But anyway, Al Letson handles the script. Edwin Galman handles the pages that are set in the present, which are pages 1 through 3. And then we have Valentin Delandro and Marisa Louise handling the flashback pages that are pages 4 through 20. Lucas Catoni and Annual Design handle the letters. But yeah, I love this. It's such an emotional story, tying into the Spectre and Darkseid and really cementing Mr. Terrific within the DC universe more so than he ever has been. It's a compelling story. It's well paced. It does a good job of humanizing Mr. Terrific because when we see him now in the pages of Justice League Unlimited, he's so a lot of times emotionless. And this is sort of given us the idea of, where he came from and how he got to that state and why he is, the way that he is. And at the end of the day, I mean, we talked about it with Mark Waid recently. The reason that he is so emotionless is because his emotions get in the way of him, like thinking and solving problems. So he purposely, tries to shut off the motion, not unlike Spock, right? From some Star Trek, he's focused on logic and what have you. So that is the sense that we're getting. Like this Al Letson does such a good job of giving us an emotional story, and we can see the evolution, we can see the progression, we can see the times that Michael Holt, while trying to I guess in a way avenge his wife's murder, avenge the murder of his friend Dre that we had, the killing of his friend Dre that we saw in the first issue, and save all the people, prevent the engine here that his wife created and then hid because it was so dangerous as a supposed clean energy source. He wants to prevent anything, because this originally was his idea, and his wife built on his ideas and eventually built this power source, and they know how dangerous it is and can be, and so he doesn't want anything that he had a hand in creating or anything that his wife had a hand in creating to be responsible for killing people, basically. So again, it is personal to him, it is emotional to him, and getting to see him on this journey of trying to stop this is just, it's so visceral from Al Letson. I think he's just doing such a fantastic job. And if Mr. Terrific, if you've read a lot of other stories, or at least a few stories of him in other things, or maybe you've just seen the Superman movie, because I think the Superman movie did a good job of showing how he does try to keep his emotions in check. Then this just lands with that much more impact. So and this is the best art I've seen from Valentin Delandro. I'm still not a huge fan of the style. Like, I prefer the Edwin Gallman pages, the pages that are set in present day that have a lot more of detail and what have you. They're a lot more dynamic. But that being said, this is still strong storytelling from Delandro, and it looks like we're going to get a new. I think it's a new villain. again, I haven't seen her before, but this Athena Prescott, when she goes in to try to stop the nether radiation that's building up and get her engine back online, we see her like sort of shocked by the lightning and what have you. So I can only imagine that she's going to get powers at some point. But yeah, I mean, it's always a little bit of a challenge. You go back and you're doing a retroactive continuity story, but I've said many times, you go back and do it right, and you're not, directly contradicting something that somebody else has built from before you. I'm perfectly fine with it. So yeah, this continues to just be fantastic. I think I read it twice, if not 3 times. And I'm looking forward to reading this whole miniseries in one sitting once it all finishes coming out. So definitely in my top 3. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, one of the highlights of this issue for me, and I thought was very clever by the writer, is having Batman be part of this issue. Now, I know it's a little bit tropey sometimes, using Batman for a story. He's kind of a prop, and so you might be inclined to say, not reading this issue, I think, oh, okay, you got to get Batman in the story to make it interesting. That's really not it. Batman is actually he's brought into the story for, first of all, a very good in-story reason. Gotham City is infected by the explosion of the Nexus machine and the accident that Mr. Terrific is trying to solve. And this is the early years. This is Mr. Terrific year 1, and we hear about how Mr. Terrific even says, like, we know that he's probably one of the top 4 smartest men on the planet. He doesn't think he's the smartest. He knows he's not the smartest. We know, arguably, I think Lex Luthor's the first, Batman's second. Somebody's third. Mr. Terrific is now, I think he calls himself 4th. I thought maybe, I'm not sure who would be the third. Actually, question for people who are listening. Who do you think the top 5 smartest people are in the DC universe? I'd say Lex Luthor, Bruce Wayne, Batman, maybe Mr. Terrific. Who's 4 and 5? Miles Calder. Like, who are the other real super geniuses? In any event, I think that's interesting, and I like the fact that it's Batman and Mr. Terrific that are trying to solve this, and just how Bruce Batman sees, as in his conversations with Alfred, just how smart Mr. Terrific is. And then you see the craziness of Athena Prescott. She's literally told by her head of security, who saw that who he was battling. She doesn't believe that. That it's actually Mr. Terrific that Michael Holt is the one that was responsible for it. It's crazy, and she's literally told that. She fires her head of security. That's crazy. I don't know. I'm not really sure why. What was her relationship with Michael Holt that she doesn't believe that he was capable of of being involved like this? So I think that was kind of interesting. But in any event, very good characterization. I have no idea if Athena Prescott, she's probably going to get some crazy wonky powers. What I like about her being infected by the energies in the Nexus machine is that it's a convenient plot device, because it would explain if Athena Prescott with her new powers shows up 5 or 6 years or 10 years later in present day, we have an explanation for that, because maybe she just disappears and is time displaced as a result of what happened to her, and maybe she just disappears and comes back. I don't know. I'm guessing. I'm playing script doctor, but it works. It's very well done. And again, if you'd have told me that Delandro would improve on his art to the degree he has since that awful Black Manta series, I would have told you were crazy. But lo and behold, another hardworking artist who's improved and gotten better, as they bloody well should. And I've been enjoying this series, and it certainly made my top 3 for this issue. Impressive.
All right, here's the list, which is interesting. The official top 15, which one of them I'm not even sure why they're on there, because it's out of continuity. But anyway, number 1, Brainiac. Yeah. Number 2, Lex Luthor. Number 3, Batman. Number 4, Mr. Terrific. But I will say, canonically, this is what it says: canonically described as the 3rd smartest man on Earth, because obviously Brainiac doesn't qualify, right? He's an alien.
Right.
So Brainiac, Lex Luthor, Batman, Mr. Terrific. Number 5, Ray Palmer, the Atom. Now number 6, this is why it's Ozymandias from Watchmen. Like that. That should be on the
kind
list.
Of a cheat.
Yeah. So maybe it's only top.
Although we got Doomsday Clock, so we can include him that way, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose. Cyborg is next, which that's interesting. I don't know that I put him above the next two, which it's John Henry Irons, Steel, and then number 9, Ted Cord. Number 10, Tio Morrow. If you don't know who that is, that's the creator of Red Tornado
Right.
and Evil Scientist, whatever. And then number 11 is Will Magnus, who he's somebody that I always feel like should be higher. Creator of the Metal Men. Then we have Professor Ivo, who created Amazo. Dr. Savannah, which again, I go back and forth on that one. Originally a Fawcett character. Maxwell Lord at 14, and then Rip Hunter at 15. And then it does say, worth noting, there are characters such as Brainiac 5 who would rank much higher than most of these if we were counting future heroes. So there's your top 15. So yeah, leave us comments. Let us know. Agree, disagree. I personally, I put Mr. Terrific above Batman when we're just talking about like intelligence in terms of like theoretical. I mean, it's so subjective, right? I certainly think that Batman is a better strategist than Mr. Terrific. But if you're talking about like just inventing something, scientific concepts or whatever, I would put Mr. Terrific above Batman. So, again, but maybe it just depends on who had their morning coffee that day or what have you. They're certainly both up there for sure. Anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have Justice League Unlimited number 10 from writer Mark Waid. Dan Mora is the artist, Tamara Bonvillain on colors, Ariana Mayer on letters. Justice League continues to tie in with what's going on with kind of the main story right now of the DC Universe tremendously. I really enjoyed this. It was great. Some really cool moments. Metamorpho, doing surgery on Time Trapper because he doesn't age, like that sort of stuff. But all that being said, just based on the strength of the other books this week, this came in at number 6 for me. It just missed out. And this was the one I was flipping back and forth between Superman and this. And then ultimately I put this slightly above Superman. Although, the argument could be made that this one and Superman tie in the most closely together of, titles that you kind of need to be reading in order to understand what's coming with DC, KO, and Darkseid and that sort of thing. So this didn't make your top 5 either, Rocky?
No, it came in at number 7, just because it's such competition. But it was cool. It's got a cool factor to it because basically Doomsday / Time Trapper, while he's escaping the Dark Legion, I think it's Mono that literally flies right through Doom, like Time Trapper, just literally flies right through him, unbelievable. And it's just crazy. And he ends up he figures the only way he can save himself is by going into present day the Justice League satellite, and he does. And Wally West, the Flash, tries to touch him, but he ages. And because the Time Trapper has a self-defense mechanism and it's impossible to. How do you treat a Time Trapper? If you try to touch him, you'll instantly age up to be an old man. The only reason Wally West survived touching him was because he's the Flash and he could, vibrate real fast, presumably, and he's the Flash and he could overcome that. But the ingenious plot. Mark Waid, he could easily figure out a way, and he did, to have Metamorpho being able to create a bubble around him, and Metamorpho is the doctor that operates on Doomsday because he can touch him, because he can form in any gas, and of course gases are immortal. Gases don't age, and so anything on the periodic table, they basically or arguably lives, exists forever. And the fact that Metamorpho is the one doing the operation with the help of Martian Manhunter and all the people combining their powers, I thought that was really cool. Meanwhile, other members of the Justice League, Power Girl and Black Lightning and Wally West, they're going around the planet, and they're Power Girl and they're planet Earth is becoming like apocalypse. It's like the fire pits are rising. So right away, things are really heating up really badly here. The future has been pretty much, we know the future is the 31st century is destroyed by the Darkseid Legion. All the iterations of the Legion of Superheroes seem to be destroyed. And even present day Earth now is starting to develop fire pits like modern day apocalypse. And this is not good. Things are looking very, very bad. And then, of course, we just saw the betrayal of Superboy-Prime in Superman 29. Of course, we as comic book readers know it's always darkest right before the dawn when everyone rises up. But this is just great setup. And like you said it works in conjunction so well. It's like, oh man, doom and gloom, and but at the same time, there's humor. There's humor in it. There's fun to be had. There's great action scenes, and it's just a lot of fun. And yeah, I just it never made my top five, but damn, it was just another good week for DC, and I would encourage people to pick this up. Such a this feels like for the first time in literally decades, it feels like we're really building to something really epic and awesome. And I'm not complaining about the plot. The plot, it's not like the disastrous dark crisis, which plot
Yeah,
issue after issue never
or
made
death
sense and
metal.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, none of that. That was all messy, and the plot was a mess, and it never made sense. And every issue seemed to contradict the previous issue. This actually is building, and its plot, and it's consistent, and it's well done, and you can see the plot lines, and it's easy to follow. It's if and if you're along for the ride, you're really and you can feel the adrenaline rush and the build up, and yeah. So it's just I really enjoyed this issue.
Yeah, what's so interesting about where DC is right now, because I agree with you. You think about metal, death. I mean, metal being the first one was less so. And again, I don't, the ideas, I don't think the ideas were flawed for metal or death metal or dark crisis. It's just the amount of real estate they had to tell those stories didn't match up with the ideas that they had. They were trying to, put 50 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag, and too much stuff was left on the cutting room floor. That's
Yeah,
just the way just the nature of the beast, right? DC's taking their time now. And every, and I'm not saying you have to read every title to understand what's going on, but the other titles don't go out of their way to either ignore what's going on with DCKO and Darkseid or whatever. They might not tie in closely, but they at least acknowledge or there's not things going on in them that contradict what's going on. So the whole line feels more cohesive, and it feels like they're taking their time to get to DCKO to eventually tie into the absolute titles, for us to get the resolution with Darkseid or whatever. It's building slowly. They're taking their time. They're having faith that they'll still be around. It'll still be the same creative teams and the same editorial or whatever 3 or 4 years from now, as they're planning things out. So they're planning more long term than they have in a really, really long time, and it shows. And the other thing that's interesting about that is, you and I, we very much looked forward to Absolute Power. We're like, oh, Mark Waid showrunning, it's going to be great. And then when it landed, it didn't quite live up to our expectations. At least not at first. I would make the argument that it accomplished what it needed to do. But here's the thing about Absolute Power. Because maybe it was a little choppy, objectively, but with the fact that DC has kept its continuity tight and continues this slow build, in retrospect, when I go back and look at Absolute Power critically, the stories and the plot lines and the continuity of DC and their continued good quality of books is retroactively making Absolute Power better. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I do.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
because basically what's happening now is, even though there were things in that event that didn't pay off then, that maybe felt like it was a bit of a letdown, because they've continued to build on it, things from Absolute Power, concept ideas, what have you, are still being paid off. Was it a perfect event? No, not by any means. I would say probably the thing that, still didn't get paid off and kind of seems to be forgotten now is kind of everybody's powers being screwed up. It's kind of gone by the wayside, if you will. But other than that, like, a lot of the things have paid off and are continuing to pay off. And so that's interesting to me, that DC continues to pay off something that, happened several years ago. So anyway, let's move on. We have 2 more books to talk about. I don't really have that much to say about them because neither one of them makes my top 5. The first one is Peacemaker presents Vigilante and Eagly double feature. The Vigilante story, written by Tim Seeley with consultant by James Gunn, art by Mitch Gerrits, letters by Pat Brosso, and then we have the Eagly story, Peaceful Vacation, written by Rex Ogle with consultation from James Gunn, pencils and inks by Matteo Loli, colors by John Kalis, and letters by Pat Brosso. Now, I'm supposed to have watched Suicide Squad and the first season of Peacemaker by now, and I haven't had time. I still have yet to do it. Yeah, Rocky showing off his shirt that he got at San Diego. Um, I really need to because I definitely want to watch the second season because I know Guy Gardner, Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner is going to show up there. But I just mentioned it to say if you're a fan of that um, that version of Peacemaker, that sensibility of story, then you're going to love this. I enjoyed it for what it was. It was entertaining. It was funny. The art's great or whatever. It's just these aren't my favorite versions of the characters. But I say that saying that I still enjoyed it. But yeah, I mean this book was never a book that was going to make my top 5. It came in at number 10 for me. But what did it rank for you, Rocky?
This was actually originally in my top 5. I moved it out. You can believe this. I moved this down to number 8. Because of the I just sort of reevaluated, and I just and because I moved it for a whole slew of reasons. Cole's Notes version, I just as much as I love this, it's just out of continuity and it's wonky fun. And I wore my Peacemaker shirt. I watched the first episode of Peacemaker, the season 2, just last week. I absolutely loved it. It's fantastic. And this is funny. This is my favorite issue of this series, and it's so well done. With Eagly. I mean, there's sex and there's violence, and there's a happy ending here for Peacemaker in the final story. Being the Purian fanboy that I am, I love the fact that so Peacemaker in the second story ends up getting both girls and the guy at the end, and Vigilante ends up getting lucky as well with the woman that says after they do the nasty, she says, I guess not all weird guys screw good. Not surprisingly, she's insulting, and there's vulgarity in language in here throughout, which is in keeping with the Peacemaker series. Which, incidentally, there's a constructive criticism of the Peacemaker series. It's kind of a quasi sequel to the Superman movie, which makes some people uncomfortable because it is very much R-rated. And so don't think and just, I know you might have taken your kids to the Superman movie, but you probably want to be a little leery to making them watch Peacemaker season 1 and season 2, or if hats off to you if you want to, but it is definitely R-rated. Just be forewarned if there are impressionable minds watching it. But it's this is great. Kudos to DC. We should see more of this. I wish we had more of this. This is the way, if you're going to link a comic book with a series, this is really close to home to the Peacemaker series. This is how you should do it. I just wish. I don't know how much of an audience this comic has, and unfortunately it just speaks to the fact that, let's be blunt, a lot of people who love comic book movies don't always buy there's not a direct relationship between people who love comic book movies and comic books, and this is probably another example of that. But it's well worth the pick up if you love the Peacemaker series.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that James Gunn consulted on both stories, like I said, you're getting the same sensibility. Anyway, last book we're going to talk about in detail, but not that much detail because it doesn't make either our top 5. It's Harley Quinn number 53 from writer Elliot Kalan, Mindy Lee on art, Triana Farrell on colors, Lucas Gattoni on letters. This doesn't make my top 5, but not because it's bad. Just, now we're back to the point of I'm just not a Harley Quinn fan. So this only comes in for me at number 11. But if I was a Harley Quinn fan, and I am reading it and I am enjoying it, and if I was a Harley Quinn fan, I think I'd be enjoying it a lot more. But it feels probably the most like the Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner era of Harley Quinn since that era. And that was the era that really put Harley Quinn on the map and where she really kind of blew up. No disrespect to anybody that's come in between, but this is just a balance of the zaniness and good storytelling that Harley Quinn's been missing for a while in some recent runs. So anyway, did you read this? It didn't rank in your top 5, but
it did, and I ranked this in at number 10. But I love this Alisa Klang, the villain here. I love how Elliot Kahn is sort of building up the pressure. Is Harley Quinn going to go out on a date with Alisa, her villain? And I like the fact that he's sort of saying something which all of us know, and that Harley Quinn even is self-aware of the fact that she's got a really screwed up social life. She's attracted to poisonous, plant women, and she's attracted to psychotic white-skinned individual. And she, she's got a weird kind of sexual appetite. And so, is it surprising? So, it's certainly possible she's attracted to Letha Klang. And so, will she or won't? Will they or won't they? That is the question. And I actually find myself rooting for them to get together, which is kind of funny. This is actually funny. This has grown on me, despite the fact that I'm not really a fan of this approach to Harley. I I would like a more serious take, even with this villain in the Clang, to be honest. But this actually works. It is funny, it's entertaining, and it does have its audience. And you are right. It does remind me more of Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor's take more and more. And it does have some pretty cool variant covers this month, which I thought were, I love the cover with her, with blowing shit up, and there's another one with there's always creative covers here. And so, if she's always good for at least one cover by every month, Harley Quinn, and this is no exception. Yeah, it's not bad, but yeah, it didn't make my top 10. Or Kalan,
Yeah.
Elliot Kalan. I apologize. I said his
Yeah,
name wrong.
Yeah. All good. All right, so that does it, everybody, for the books that we're going to talk about in detail. There are a number of collected editions this week. Let me just get them in front of me. So for collected editions this week, we have Absolute Batman Haunted Night hardcover, which collects Batman Madness #1, Batman Ghost #1, Batman Legends of the Dark Knight Halloween Special #1, and Catwoman When in Rome 1 through 6. And this is the Absolute edition, so it's that larger size. 336 pages for $100. This is all Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale stuff in that sort of last Halloween corner of the Batman universe. Also, Batman Huntress, Cry for Blood trade paperback. This is a story from Greg Rucka with art by Rick Burchett. It's 144 pages for $18. Batman 66 is getting a compendium, which collects all 30 issues of Batman 66, as well as the Lost Episode #1, and Batman 66 meets Wonder Woman 1 through 6, as well as Batman meets the Legion of Superheroes one-shot. Batman Year 100 trade paperback. This is the Paul Pope story. He's the writer and the artist on that. I want to say that came out in like 2006. It's well known, and if you're a fan of Paul Pope, you'll dig it. Black Lightning 1 through 5. That's the recent Black Lightning miniseries from Brandon Thomas with art by Fico Ossio is getting a collected edition. New Gods Volume 1 has both a hardcover and a softcover. That's the current Rom V run that we just reviewed the latest issue last week. Question All Along the Watchtower. This is the Alex Segura, Cian Tormey miniseries that was out earlier this year that gives us the first look at Renee Montoya as the security officer on the new Justice League satellite. We have Red Hood, The Lost Days trade paperback, which collects the 6-issue miniseries. Written by Judd Winnick, art by Jeremy Hahn. This is from the mid 2000, I think it's like 2005, 2006, somewhere in there. Sandman Mystery Theater Compendium 2, collecting issues 37 through 70, as well as the Vertigo Winter's Edge 1 and 2. That has a forward by Patton Oswalt and an afterword by series co-writer Stephen T. Siegel. So that's 888 pages for $60. Good value there. Sheriff of Babylon. This is written by Tom King, Mitch Gerrits. This collects the entire series 1 through 12. This is, interestingly enough, this series came out started coming out in 2015. This was when I knew I was already friends with Tom for a little while, and at my local comic shop, I went in on the day that the first issue of this was being released, and Mitch Gerrits was doing a signing there. And it's weird to think now, like he was doing a signing in the back of the comic shop. There was nobody there. And I sat there and talked to him for like an hour and a half. And it's crazy now, right? Because Mitch will go and still do some local signings, and he's always got a giant line, always a bunch of people showing up. But yeah, this was their first, Tom and Mitch's first collaboration. Highly recommended. Very down to earth, grounded story. And then finally, Wednesday Comics is getting a hardcover. Way too many creators to list, but this is when DC was putting out those Wednesday comics in the early 2000s that were sort of in newspaper type form. I still have some of those. I don't have all of them. I kind of wish I did, but they're a little tough to read, and they're hard to kind of keep in good shape if you do want to read them. So this is a great answer to being able to read them all together in one collected edition. It's 200 pages for $75. It is oversized. It comes with a slipcase and what have you. And yeah, those Wednesday comics are beloved by a lot of people. So those are the collected editions that are out this week. As far as facsimiles, there is a reprint of Action Comics number 23 that's out this week. And as has been the case with DC, what they've been doing with these recently is you get a reprint with obviously, new colors and what have you. So bright, vibrant colors, but in the same size as the Golden Age. But then there's also a foil edition, and there's a blank cover edition as well. And then there are also some reprints of some of the Absolute books as well coming out this week. So if you've missed any of those, I think it's I want to say the 8th edition of Absolute Batman is getting Absolute Batman number 1 is getting a reprint, 8th printing, which is just crazy to me. So anyway, a lot of great DC books this week. It was a really, really strong week. So all right, I guess we'll move on to rankings. I made Rocky go first last time, so I will go first this time. I did make one slight change. I did one flip flop while we were talking. So starting with number 13, it's Flash number 24, as I mentioned before. Green Lantern Dark comes in at number 12. At number 11 for me is Harley Quinn, number 53. Peacemaker Presents comes in at number 10. Number 9, Robin and Batman, Jason Todd. Number 8 for me is Absolute Martian Manhunter. Number 7, Superman number 29, which pains me to have it that low, but reasons. Number 6 is Justice League Unlimited number 10. And then in my top 5, I have Absolute Wonder Woman number 11 coming in at 5. At number 4, Green Arrow number 27. And then my top 3 coming in at number 3 is Green Lantern 26. Number 2 for me, and these are the ones I flip-flopped. Number 2, I originally had this at number 1, but after we talked about him, I was like, I got to move this down to number 2. Number 2 is Mr. Terrific Year 1, number 4. And number 1, I bumped it up after talking about it. Immortal Legend Batman number 1 is my number 1 this week. Just objectively, I think I mean, it's so close, but I just enjoyed it slightly more than Mr. Terrific. And like I said, it's got speculator possibilities, and it is a number 1, and it's a great jumping on point. And it's Elseworlds. You don't need it. It could be a book that hopefully can bring more people into the DC universe. So for that reason, I bumped it up to number 1. What are your rankings, Rocky?
My rankings are just a moment here. My rankings are coming in my 13, Flash 24 at number 12, Green Lantern Dark issue 6 at number 11, Green Arrow 27 at number 10, Harley Quinn 53, number 9, Green Lantern 26, number 8, Peacemaker and Vigilante, number 7, Justice League Unlimited 10, number 6, Absolute Wonder Woman, number 11. Coming in at number 5 was Immortal Batman, number 1. And then at number 4 was Batman and Robin, Jason Todd, issue 3. Coming in at number 3 was Absolute Martian Manhunter at number 6. And then number 2, we have the same number 2 and number 1. I put Mr. Terrific Year 1, issue 4 at number 2. But no, pardon me, my number 1 was Superman 29.
Wow.
I loved it. I just had a blast with it. So it was just, I enjoyed it. It was good. It was a great week.
Fingers crossed that Joshua Williamson doesn't let us down and turn Superboy-Prime back to the dark side. Please, Josh, don't do it. Please,
So,
I beg you.
I don't want to retroactively have to change my top pick this week.
Yeah,
never
fair
been
enough.
done.
Fair enough. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Again, don't forget to go check out my chat with Todd McFarlane. And if you are so inclined, you want to get that original art. I mean, this is by far and away probably going to be the most affordable way to ever get a piece of McFarlane original art. Appreciate everybody tuning in as always. Don't forget, if you prefer to listen audio only, just head to your favorite podcasting platform or app, do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe, and you have thousands and thousands of past episodes to go and listen to. If you are listening to us audio only, don't forget to head over to YouTube, subscribe to Rocky's channel, Comic Space Boom ! Where this comes out every week. Again, we're changing our recording schedule, so hopefully we can be on time going forward. And if we can't make it, we definitely will delay until we both can, because that's what you guys seem to want. You love the interaction more so than just having us just talk about one or the other of us just talk about the book. So that's what we'll do. Anyway, we appreciate the support as always, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.